What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So we're setting our sights on Suicide Squad little by little. Yes, the game is probably coming all the way next year, but it is never too early to start to take a look at everything that we have so far. So far, so good. I think we've had about 3 trailers. We had the very first story trailer. Then we got another theatrical one where Amanda Waller is pretty much addressing the squad members. This one was very interesting because you could tell that this is where they were first getting them out of Arkham to send them on their mission. And as Amanda Waller usually does, she probably already implanted those chips in their heads at this point. So this particular trailer is very cool because all of these elements here, you will be seeing them in the game. They seem like story based elements that are done in a theatrical sense with, cutscenes and conversations and just all those elements to build the characters and allow for them to have a lot of depth. So that's definitely one side of things that I'm looking forward to. But today's video, we're going to be looking at the combat because it's not difficult for us to be able to say things like, I wonder what elements Rocksteady is going to be reiterating in the Suicide Squad game. So one thing that one of my audience members asked was, do I think that Rocksteady Suicide Squad is going to have a free flow combat? Now, that's a very interesting question because the free flow system was quite remarkable. It really did change how we look at superhero games. As much as people might say it's kind of goofy or whatever it is, I would say maybe forgive the outlandish nature of Arkham Knight. But if you go back to Arkham City, you will be able to feel how weighty that combat was. Arkham City's combat, I think, is the one that did have a lot of brutality to it in a sense and wasn't too flashy like Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight was just them flexing. This was Rocksteady just saying, yeah, we can make Red Hood fly from one side of the screen to another and you're going to enjoy every single facet of it. That's what I think Arkham Knight was, and I enjoyed it too, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about the foundations of the combat system. Now, here's a challenge, say, with something like Suicide Squad having this particular system. The first thing is the network and the replication side of things. When you look at the way the free flow system works, you really have to consider the fact that 2 people are going to be more than likely playing different aspects of the game. And that's what's going to make things quite challenging, as in the case of, say, Suicide Squad. If you have, say, a teammate or a team member doing all kinds of other fun stuff, it will be very interesting for you to be able to just hop from a bunch of enemies back and forth in order for you to be dealing damage all over the place. But again, that's just one side of things. The other thing that I think would probably make it where free flow might not necessarily be appropriate in this combat scenario is the fact that this game deals a lot with traversal as a heavy aspect of its gameplay. So if you've seen this gameplay trailer, and for those of you who may or may not know, this is what the game is going to look like. I know it may sound crazy, but you'll see though. Because from here anyways, I can tell what some of the cinematics look like and what some of the gameplay looks like. This is gameplay with Captain Boomerang shooting like this shotgun. Because this game is primarily a shooter. And then the second part is traversal. Harley is over here hanging on some kind of a glider, using some kind of some kind of rope or whatever it is in order for her to just keep shooting. And this free run aspect is where the game is really going to thrive. Yes, you'll be able to do some combat moves, takedowns, abilities, but there's a pace to this game that is very fast that you wouldn't necessarily have the time to be, flashing your way through different enemy types and so on and so forth. You're more than likely going to be in a place where many times or many scenarios or many missions are going to be things like these, where you're going to be dealing with enemy clusters and possibly, enemy types that pose different challenges, if you get what I mean. If you look at, say, Killer Shark here, Nanawe, if you see the way he's basically going into, his combat scenario, he's using a lot of area of effect, abilities and also using a minigun to be able to deal his damage. So there's going to be that aspect of things. You think about Harley Quinn, she has fast-paced firing in the way that she actually is shooting. You look at Deadshot, the way he's actually able to play, he can use his sniper and then he can use all kinds of other burn abilities depending on how it is that he's moving. So there is that tie-in to the traversal in terms of the entire combat that really makes it very interesting for us to be able to see what this actually does. Now, here's the really cool thing. For those who may be wondering, and I've made this argument that this game actually seems to be much closer to Avengers. And I know some of my audience members and we were talking about this, and it may seem crazy, but for me to say this is no small thing because Rocksteady is one of my favorite developers, if not my favorite developer in terms of mechanics. But here's the thing about Rocksteady. They usually clean up their mechanics so well that even if they were able to make Avengers, it will probably be the best version of Avengers that they could make. So I'm not really worried about the mechanics in a sense. And I know the Avengers comparison can seem like a slight on a video game because some people weren't necessarily satisfied with the product, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, in my opinion, that this game has this model. Now, keep in mind, too, that the developers of Rocksteady really do have an obsession with their narrative elements. They like to tell a story with their games. So we're going to be seeing a story side of things, because already you're seeing the Justice League members. They're really going to make this game have a lot of depth with the interactions. I mean, you already see Captain Boomerang's, relationship with the Flash, and, some of his relationships in the way that he's got some animosity, or it just seems like a menace to Princess Diana. There's a spot where she basically ropes him with the lasso of truth, and even the Flash is messing with him. So already you can see that his loud mouth is getting him into trouble. So there will be that aspect, but I have no doubt that the mechanics and the way the combat's going to really flow, I have no doubt that it's going to be solid in a sense. It's going to be very well polished. They're going to ensure that they polish a lot of interactions. And if at any rate we're going to be seeing the, Justice League members have some animosity towards one another, in the sense that you have some that are still good and some that are not necessarily being possessed by Brainiac and some that have been full blown mind bent, you're going to pretty much see a very solid game in terms of these worlds colliding. The gameplay itself and the way the game is going to roll is going to also have different layers. Now, keep in mind one thing too. I'm making my assessment based on the gameplay that we've seen from just the short gameplay trailer that they put out. This was just showing them interacting with the minions and Brainiac's, little enemy NPC types and NPC classes. We haven't necessarily seen too much in terms of a boss fight between specific members of the Justice League and the Suicide Squad. We've seen Superman, yes. We've seen Flash, yes. And Green Lantern just get highlighted. But what is a fight with those Suicide Squad members going to look like? And I think that's the second layer as to exactly what we need to expect with this game. So you're going to see, these barrage of enemies running after you, clusters. You can clear them out possibly easily. And then when it comes to a Justice League member, you guys are going to have to play differently. You and your team members, you and your squad mates. It might be a thing where the game forces you, if you're playing solo, not forces you, but the game puts you in a position where you start to maybe want to use all of the abilities of your 4 teammates to the max, where you're swapping. Maybe there's a situation or a scenario where Harley might be better suited for something. You quickly swap to Harley and you get some work done, and then you need maybe Killer Shark and some of his brute force to come in and get some things done, and you swap to him as well. I think this is where that dynamics of the combat's going to really go. Rocksteady have once, Stephen Hill anyways, in an interview once compared the combat of Arkham to a kind of a musical type thing. And I think that's probably what they're going to be playing on with this game in terms of combat. But I have to hold my horses a little bit, though, so I don't go make too many assumptions, because I really want to wait to see how they go ahead to reveal the game. But so far, so good. These are my preliminary analyses, and I'll be dropping some even more down the road. And as Gotham Knights gets its release and all of that, we'll eventually switch gears to Suicide Squad, just so we can start to keep track of where we're at, and hopefully the developers are able to start showing a little bit more. But don't expect too much anyways, because Hogwarts Legacy needs to get its shine. And then I think maybe by the end of March, we're probably going to be seeing some strong marketing for this game as well. So thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think the combat's going to be about? And even for those of you who are probably wondering if there'll be free flow or something of that nature, I would love to hear why you think it should, represent itself in the game, if it at all can anyways. So talk to me in the comment section, and we'll talk pretty soon. Peace out.